the movie Boyz in the Hood, what I love about the movie, perfect movie for you, he put me in Boyz in the Hood to produce the Black experience. So people can really see how we are, how we feel, Black reality.
Behind the scenes of Boyz in the Hood, more was going on than anyone realized. There were dangerous and completely unexpected moments that even the cast struggled to forget. Years later, Ice Cube finally opened up about what really happened, and his revelations shocked everyone. What went down during filming, and why are fans still talking about it decades later? Join us as we reveal what most fans never figured out about Boyz in the Hood, and why Ice Cube says it's worse than anyone imagined. The beginning of a masterpiece. Boyz in the Hood began as a simple college project. John Singleton, a 22-year-old film student at the University of Southern California, wrote the script as his senior thesis. He was just a young man with a powerful story to tell. What started as a class assignment soon became one of the most unforgettable films about life in South Central Los Angeles. Singleton decided to take a bold step. He sent his script to Columbia Pictures, not expecting much. But fate had other plans. His writing blew the studio away, and they immediately bought the script. Within months, the young student found himself behind the camera, directing a film that changed his life forever. Suddenly, he went from campus life to Hollywood fame, becoming one of the youngest directors ever nominated for an Academy Award. The movie came across as honest because it was Singleton's story. He grew up in the same South Central neighborhood, surrounded by the same struggles and tensions that shaped the movie's characters. The scenes of violence, police encounters, and quiet moments of family life came straight from his own memories. Even the wise and tough character, Furious Styles, played by Lawrence Fishburne, was based on Singleton's own father, a man known for his discipline and deep life lessons about survival. One of the film's biggest surprises came from its casting. Ice Cube, who played Doughboy, almost didn't make it into the movie. At the time, he was a rapper known for his work with NWA. Singleton met him at a hip-hop event and instantly saw something special. Ice Cube laughed, thinking it was just fan talk. But Singleton insisted, believing that Cube's real-life experience and authenticity would bring the character to life in a way no trained actor could. After some convincing, Cube gave it a try, nailed the audition, and made his acting debut. That single role turned him into a movie star overnight.
I was up there because I wanted to talk to Arsenio because I wanted him to have, Easy and NWA on. Here come John Singleton.
But not everything about making Boyz in the Hood was smooth. One of the most intense moments happened during the filming of the famous drive-by shooting scene. The crew shot it in a real Los Angeles neighborhood known for heavy gang activity. The cast was nervous, but no one expected what came next. As they began filming with blank bullets, some locals mistook the gunfire for the real thing. In a terrifying twist, a few people actually fired back. The crew dropped to the ground for safety, and production was halted until the situation calmed. But that near disaster was just one of many wild behind-the-scenes moments. After all, what could be crazier than almost getting caught in the crossfire of real gang gunfire? Challenged by real gang members. Filming Boyz in the Hood was dangerous. Cuba Gooding Jr., who played Trey Styles, admitted that several scenes left him genuinely terrified. One night, a few local gang members showed up questioning why a Hollywood crew was filming on their turf. The situation could have gone bad fast, but John Singleton handled it calmly. He spoke to them directly, explaining that the movie wasn't trying to exploit their lives, but to show their reality with respect. His sincerity changed everything. From that night on, the same locals who once confronted the crew began protecting them instead. They watched over the set, making sure no one messed with the production. It was a moment that proved how much the story belonged to the people it represented. Then there was the fascinating bond between the film's father and son duo, Furious and Trey Styles. On screen, Lawrence Fishburne delivered one of the most memorable father roles in film history, guiding Trey through the chaos of South Central life. But here's the twist. Fishburne was only 7 years older than Cuba Gooding Jr. in real life. Fishburne was 30, and Gooding Jr. was 23 when the movie premiered. It didn't matter, though. Fishburne's strong presence made audiences believe every word he said. John Singleton didn't cast him for his age, he cast him for his power. Fishburne had that rare ability to make wisdom feel real. Like every line he spoke carried years of experience. Their on-screen connection felt authentic, making them one of the most iconic father-son pairs in cinema history.
She ain't lost her touch. She still can make some barbecue.
Hey, Pop, can you fix my fade back here?
One of the most powerful scenes in Boyz and the Hood came straight from Singleton's own life, the tense moment when a black LAPD officer harasses Trey. That wasn't just a movie drama, it actually happened. Years earlier, Singleton had been pulled over in his neighborhood by an officer who verbally humiliated him in front of his friend. The sting of that moment stayed with him for years. When it came time to write Boyz and the Hood, he knew he had to include it. It wasn't just about his own pain. It was about the shared experience of many black men who had faced the same kind of treatment. Singleton wanted people outside that world to understand what it felt like. But that wasn't the only drama happening behind the scenes. There was a lot more going on than fans ever knew. Let's dive in. How real emotions and a bold ending made history. Unlike most Hollywood productions, Boyz and the Hood was filmed in the same order in which the story unfolded. From the opening scenes of childhood to the heartbreaking finale, John Singleton wanted his young cast to live the journey alongside their characters. It was an unusual choice for a first-time director, but it made all the difference. Singleton believed that shooting in chronological order would help the actors grow emotionally with their roles. Cuba Gooding Jr., Ice Cube, and Morris Chestnut slowly became Trey, Doughboy, and Ricky. Every scene was built on the last, and by the time the cameras rolled on the final moments, their emotions were real. Morris Chestnut once said, "When we filmed the last scene, I didn't have to imagine losing someone. After weeks of living the story, I was Doughboy's brother. The emotion was real."
I don't have to worry about a damn thing. Don't have to worry about no colleges, no 700 on no SATs, not a damn.
That authenticity is part of what made the movie so unforgettable. You can feel their exhaustion, their pain, and their hope because the actors were truly living it on set. Singleton's method created a bond among the cast that went beyond acting. They had become one another's support system through the emotional roller coaster of the film. Every moment of laughter, fear, and heartbreak was layered with genuine feeling, captured in real time. But while Singleton's creative approach shaped the heart of the movie, his biggest fight came at the end. When the film was nearly finished, studio executives suggested changing the ending. They wanted something softer, something more Hollywood. Maybe Doughboy survives, maybe Trey escapes and lives happily ever after. Anything but another tragic ending. Singleton stood his ground. He knew how the story needed to end because he'd seen it too many times in real life. For him, the tragedy wasn't there to shock audiences. It was there to tell the truth. Life in South Central Los Angeles didn't always offer happy endings. Hopeful young men were still getting swallowed by their environment, no matter how hard they tried to escape. He told the studio, "That's not how it ends in real life." He refused to compromise, even if it meant risking the film. Columbia Pictures eventually trusted his vision and allowed him to keep the original ending. It was a bold decision that turned Boyz n the Hood into more than just a movie. It became a cultural statement. When audiences saw the film, they saw reflections of the real world in all its aspects. The ending hit hard because it didn't offer comfort. It left viewers thinking about the cycle of violence and the cost of growing up in a world where survival isn't guaranteed. That honesty set Boyz n the Hood apart from anything Hollywood had done before. Singleton's fearless storytelling gave a voice to those who rarely got to speak for themselves, showing the world what it truly meant to come of age in South Central. In the end, that refusal to bend to studio pressure turned the film into a timeless masterpiece. And while the film's message touched audiences around the world, its deep roots in the real streets of South Central made it even more personal. That bond between the story, its creator, and the community shaped everything that followed. But how did the people of South Central truly react when the cameras started rolling? Tupac connection in Boyz n the Hood. When filming began on Boyz n the Hood, Not everyone in South Central Los Angeles welcomed the cameras. Many locals worried the movie would exploit their pain or make their neighborhood look worse. But when people learned that the film's director, John Singleton, was one of their own, a young man who had grown up just a few streets away, the atmosphere changed completely. What started with suspicion soon turned into pride. The neighborhood began to embrace the project, realizing that Singleton was giving their stories a voice. Locals who once stood back started helping out in unexpected ways. Kids showed up every morning, excited to watch the actors perform. Some were even invited to appear in minor roles or work as production assistants. Day by day, the streets that had once felt divided turned into a tight-knit community. The film set became more than just a workplace. It became a family. Everyone shared a single goal: to show the world what life in South Central was really like, without stereotypes or fake glamour. The experience bonded the cast, crew, and residents in a way no one could have predicted. John Singleton later reflected on those days with pride, saying, "They didn't just let us film there, they became part of the film's soul." That statement summed up everything the movie stood for. Boyz n the Hood wasn't a story made about South Central. It was a story made with South Central. The neighborhood gave the film its energy, honesty, and emotional heartbeat. While the streets of Los Angeles helped shape the film's authenticity, another legend nearly became part of that history: Tupac Shakur. Before Ice Cube was cast as Doughboy, Tupac was considered for the role. At the time, Tupac wasn't yet a major film star. He was an up-and-coming rapper with a sharp mind and a deep understanding of social issues. Singleton met him through mutual friends in the LA music scene and was immediately struck by his passion. Tupac loved the script and told Singleton he wanted to be involved, saying he'd take any role that carried a real message. Singleton seriously considered bringing him on, impressed by how naturally Tupac's energy fit the story's spirit, but the timing didn't work out. Tupac's music career was just taking off, and his schedule made it impossible for him to commit. Even so, Singleton never forgot that meeting. He later said Tupac's mix of intelligence, fire, and truth-telling perfectly reflected what Boyz n the Hood was all about. Fate eventually brought them together again a few years later in Poetic Justice, another John Singleton film. This time, Tupac got his chance to shine on screen alongside Janet Jackson, bringing the same passion he had once shared for Boyz n the Hood. But beyond its cast and fame, what truly made Boyz n the Hood unforgettable were the raw, unscripted moments that hit straight from the heart. What were some of these moments? Some scenes were straight from the heart. Some of the most emotional scenes in Boyz n the Hood came straight from the heart. One unforgettable moment was the scene in which Furious Styles, played by Lawrence Fishburne, gathers Trey and Ricky to discuss responsibility, respect, and the cycle of violence in their neighborhood. It's one of the most quoted scenes in movie history, but what many people don't know is that it was entirely improvised. John Singleton gave Fishburne a simple direction: talk to them like they're your sons. From there, Fishburne poured out wisdom, anger, and love in his own words. The result was electric. Cuba Gooding Jr. later admitted that while filming, he forgot they were acting. Fishburne's words hit that deep. His voice carried the weight of every father trying to raise a son in a broken world. When the cameras stopped rolling, no one moved. The set fell silent. Crew members who had seen countless scenes before found themselves wiping tears from their eyes. That moment wasn't just decisive, it was real. It captured the film's soul, showing the heart behind the chaos, the love behind the pain. What became one of the movie's defining scenes wasn't written, it was felt. Another deeply emotional moment came with Ricky Baker's death, a scene that still shakes audiences decades later. Morris Chestnut's character had become a symbol of innocence and hope, a good kid with big dreams, caught in a world that wouldn't let him escape. John Singleton knew that the only way to capture that heartbreak honestly was to make it as real as possible. Instead of rehearsing it repeatedly, Singleton pulled Chestnut aside and gave him a quiet instruction: just run, and when you fall, don't stop until you feel it. There were no second takes, no rehearsed screams, and no planned emotions. Everything you see in that scene, the the desperate sprint, the gunshot, the slow-motion fall, was captured in one raw, gut-wrenching take. As soon as the scene ended, silence filled the air again. No one clapped, no one spoke. Even the crew, hardened by days of intense filming, stood frozen. Cuba Gooding Jr. later said it didn't feel like acting anymore. It felt like losing a brother. That one take carried the pain, fear, and heartbreak that defined not just the movie, but the reality it represented. But as powerful as those moments were, what happened behind the scenes was even more intense. What happens when the line between movie drama and real-life danger starts to blur? The chaos and change that shook Hollywood. The making of Boyz n the Hood was a battle, both on and off camera. While the movie exposed the realities of police harassment, the cast and crew were facing it in real life. During late-night shoots, LAPD patrol cars circled the set, shining spotlights and intimidating everyone involved. One night, Ice Cube was pulled over just blocks away.
A running back or a tight end because I'm waiting for the director to tell me which way to go. But John Singleton, he's a 22-year-old brother.
When he explained that he was filming a movie, the officers laughed in disbelief. For John Singleton, this irony hit hard. "It proved my point better than the film ever could," he later said. Despite these obstacles, Singleton's determination changed Hollywood forever. At just 23 years old, he became the youngest and first black director ever nominated for an Academy Award. What made that even more remarkable was that Boyz n the Hood began as his college thesis at USC. His nomination wasn't just a personal victory, it was a cultural breakthrough. Singleton showed the world that authentic black stories deserved a place on the biggest stage, told by the people who lived them. Authenticity was everything to him. While most filmmakers recreated neighborhoods on sound stages, Singleton refused to fake South Central. He filmed on the actual streets where the story took place. That choice gave the movie a gritty honesty that couldn't be imitated. The risk was real. Actors often heard actual gunfire in the distance during filming. Many of the extras were local residents, bringing genuine emotion and energy that no Hollywood set could match. That same dedication followed the cast off camera. To fully understand their characters' lives, Singleton had the actors live in South Central during production. Cuba Gooding Jr., Ice Cube, and others experienced firsthand the tension, rhythm, and fear of the area they were portraying. Some nights, they heard gunshots outside their temporary homes, blurring the line between fiction and reality. Those experiences seeped into their performances, giving every scene a haunting sense of truth. When Boyz n the Hood premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, the response was overwhelming. The audience, thousands of miles from Los Angeles, stood and applauded for 8 straight minutes. European critics were stunned by the film's realism and emotional power. It was rare for a movie about young black men in America's inner cities to be featured at such a prestigious event, and it instantly established Singleton as one of the most important new voices in global cinema. But getting the movie to theaters wasn't easy. When Columbia Pictures held its first test screening, some executives thought it was too raw, too political, and too risky. They feared it would alienate audiences or cause backlash. Some even suggested changing the ending to make it less tragic. Singleton refused to compromise. He believed the truth was more potent than comfort. In the end, his courage paid off. Boyz n the Hood became a box office success and earned him 2 Oscar nominations at just 24 years old. The film didn't just move critics, it moved communities. After its release, reports surfaced that rival gangs in Los Angeles met to discuss the film's message about violence and loss. It didn't end the problem overnight, but it sparked conversations about unity, empathy, and responsibility. For the first time, many young men saw their lives reflected on screen with honesty and dignity. Years later, community leaders credited Boyz n the Hood for helping to open dialogue in neighborhoods long divided by conflict. John Singleton once said, "If even one person thought twice before picking up a gun because of my movie, then it was worth it." And it was. Which moment from Boyz n the Hood still gives you chills today? And do you think any film has captured the same raw truth that John Singleton brought to the screen? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.